moderator for this segment. These people are too big, humse to na ho payega. So we had someone who is a specialist in this field come in. He is an award-winning entertainment journalist, and his show, Bollywood Talks, has been so famous for so many years. It has a global outreach. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me to welcome our host, Faridoon Shahryar, sir.
That's right, Faridoon Shahryar. Good evening, how are you guys doing? How does it feel to be back in-person events after pandemic?
Great.
I think you can be louder, you guys can be louder, just have fun. Okay, so we have a very special panel today in Cult of Creative. We are in a very interesting space right now where both cinema theatres as well as OTT platforms, they are ruling the roost, and it's a very, very interesting cusp as far as the entertainment industry is concerned. The stage is all yours.
Stage is yours, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I would like to first of all invite Mr. Kabir Khan. You know who he is. An extraordinary mind and a very, very important voice in the entertainment world. Kabir, if you can please join us. Thank you. And all right, we have with us Nidhi Bisht. She is the queen of digital content, a lawyer, a casting director, as well as an actor in movies. Nidhi, can you please join us? Please give a huge round of applause to Hardik Mehta. I think he's in a very, very interesting space. He has made movies like Kaamyaab, for example, which is a fantastic film premiered at Busan. He has also been part of some wonderful series, especially Decoupled in recent times, and he has written Patal Lok as well. Finally, we have Suresh Trivedi, a very, very fine director, an ad man. He has directed some fantastic advertisements. At the same time, he has directed movies like Tumhari Sulu and Jalsa recently that premiered on Amazon. So that's an OTT platform as well. So Suresh, can you please join us? All right, please have us. Yeah. And please be a part of this conversation. Listening is as much important part of conversation as the people who are talking. Thank you very much. Alright, so first of all, Kabir, as the title is Cult of Creative, we are in a very interesting space as far as cinema halls and OTT platforms are concerned. You've had a very unique experience that you've had a film that has released in cinema halls, got extraordinary reviews, and then the third wave hit in. And now it has got a brilliant lease of life as it released on OTT platforms and has done exceedingly well. How do you look at these two streams of entertainment space as of now?
Good evening. I wish actually that dance performance was after us, because after that electric dance performance, I hope we don't bore the hell out of you. But yeah, for me, 83 is a film that we sort of kept and guarded and wanted to release once the pandemic was over and once the situation is becoming better. But that's what life is. I think we went and released it on the worst day possible. Because now in retrospect, when you read that the third wave started on the 22nd of December, believe you me, on the 22nd of December, we did not realize that the third wave was upon us. It's only when we released and within 3 days, Delhi shut down its theatres, 4 days later another 4 states shut down the theatres. In a week's time, 11 states had shut down the theatres, is when we realized we're in a soup. But having said that, me, Faridoon, as a filmmaker, I don't make too much distinction between this whole debate of theaters versus OTT, because ultimately I'm a storyteller, and I want my story to reach as many people as possible. Yes, of course, box office does reflect that, a lot of people are coming to see your film, but in this case, as you said, we were shut down within days of our release, but yet when it came on the OTTs, and fortunately we had a simultaneous release on Hotstar and Netflix, the deluge of the kind of messages that I got, I realized that now we finally sort of hitting the audiences that were waiting. And obviously, one cannot blame the audiences because there was a fear during the third wave. Genuinely, I mean, extremely close friends of mine could not get the courage to go to the theatre, so I cannot expect somebody who's not even connected to the film. So, but having said that, today I'm in a happy space because it's reached now the people. Ultimately, I always feel a film does reach the audience it's meant for, and in the case of 83, it's finally reached the audiences because of the OTT release.
Alright, so Hardik, you've had a very, very interesting journey. You've been a script supervisor with a guy that you wanted to work with, and you've directed a fantastic film in Kaamyaab that I saw on Netflix, and you've written Patal Lok. You've recently directed Decouple recently. You've also directed Ruhi.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've been a pandemic's baby, I can say. My first film released on 6th March and 13th March 2020, all the theatres got shut. So the first wave came, and second Ruhi came in March 2021, and we were there in theatres for 3 weeks, and then the second wave shut the theatres. So now I am hoping and praying and crossing my fingers for my third film and my third producer that they don't go through anybody. I mean, even Decoupled happened in such a way that Decoupled came and then the Omicron wave came in. But with Decoupled, at least the good part was that it was on Netflix, so while everybody is suffering from Omicron, at least they can be locked inside the room and at least watch our show, So I mean, I can say that I have had advantage and disadvantage of the lockdown and pandemic in a way. But I mean, I would say advantage a lot more because even Patal Lok came on May 2020 and everybody was at home and everybody could watch that series, and we got the responses that we were not expecting because we were thinking that there would be simultaneously so many films that would be coming. The Amazon series, that too we didn't have big names, so to say, because when Patal Lok was coming, Jaideep Bhai was also just coming up. But with Patal Lok, we just realized the importance of an actor than a star. And I think even in Kaamyaab, I kind of was trying to put that, and that actually kind of, they both came in May 2020, and simultaneously a lot of people. Then from 2020, we could see the shift in the habits of consumers and audiences that they are now, straight away. In fact, today you might take 2 or 3 days to decide whether to go to cinema hall or not. But if it's on OTT, you might as well just switch on at night and start seeing it, like Jalsa, which is Suresh's film. I was so excited when I saw the trailer that the day it released, at that night itself, I saw the film, which if it would have come to theatres, I would have taken 2 days to probably go to cinema halls, waited for the reviews or stuff like that. But thanks to it being on Amazon Prime, I straight away saw it. So I mean, I can see that there are both advantages and disadvantages of being on OTT, but I would rather say advantage more than a disadvantage.
Right, so Decoupled is primarily in English. I found that fascinating, because there is a huge population that speaks and converses in English in a day-to-day manner in India. And India being this huge diverse country, many states, they don't understand their local languages, they converse in English. Did you find that fascinating, that element of freedom that you got?
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the primary reasons for me to do Decoupled, was that it was in Indian English. It was not the Babu English which you see some of when the people from West come to India, and then when you show that even the waiters and even the different gentry are also speaking in English, which is not the case in India. Like if we are speaking to my parents or my in-laws, then I am going to switch to Hindi. But when we colleagues are going to talk, we are always going to, the urban colleagues are going to speak in English. So I think with Decoupled, I had that opportunity to experiment where we can have the kind of urban language that in which we exchange. And of course, primary reason was also that Mr. Joseph, the writer, creator of the show, his first language was also English. So when he had written it, it was my responsibility to ensure that this written material or the joke or the punch lands it as well without making us feel like it's made by somebody from outside but about India, but character speaking in English, so which is something that was a first time opportunity, which I'm also glad that Netflix gave us that complete freedom, and we kind of found those actors who could do this automatic switch to Hindi to English so easily, and it kind of became a topic that a lot of people, in fact, I was telling my producers that Decoupled is the show which was most discussed in all December parties, because December everybody was meeting after a year where we saw second wave and all, so yeah, in a way, thanks to OTT again, we could take an experiment like that, which otherwise in the past decade it would have almost became say a Rahul Bose kind of film, which, sorry for the lack of that, but it almost it would become that, but now no more it is that, you can do that, and you can make the series or film in the language that you feel is the most apt of that world.
Okay, so Nidhi, coming to you, it is such an interesting journey that you've had. So I was just doing my research on you, and I just came to realize that you had a very unique predicament when you came to Bombay and you joined TVF, that you were the only non-IIT member of that group. Usually it is considered that entertainment space, people, they are not very educated, and maybe it breaks that myth. And how you are a lawyer. How was that experience, first of all, to start with in the entertainment space?
So, so I studied law. So by qualification, I'm a lawyer. I always wanted to join the movies, but वही घर पे Three Idiots सारा ना कि पहले have a secure career and all of that, and then you have to tell them कि देखो I can make money, but this is not what I want to do. And luckily, I was lucky enough to convince my parents. Also, I think probably the Ladli Bachi and the drama in me helped me convince my parents, deliver a convincing performance. And how, when I came to Mumbai and when I discovered these bunch of guys from IIT, as you rightly said, one correction, small correction, I was not the only non-IITian though. There were quite a few. मतलब एक दो वैसे भी थे जो परफेक्शनिस्ट होते हैं ना, जो 6 साल कॉलेज में रहे बट बिना डिग्री लिए बाहर आ गए. तो there were 2-3 people like that also. It was a pleasant experience. Yeah, we all came together because there was nothing for us to watch. So when we started writing those sketches, we were initially writing to watch something for us. Like there was nothing. There was TV, movies में पता नहीं होता था. तो बस कर रहे थे यार. And there was a lot of angst and observations. There was also, every generation has a voice, or at least I feel that I am a generation of a voice, है ना? I'm a voice of a generation. So, we used to feel that हमारी voice वहाँ resonate नहीं हो रही है. There's nobody to sort of that bouncing board जो बताएगा कि यार नहीं ये सही है, ये अच्छा लग रहा है, let's make it. So that's how it all started, यार. And then one thing led to the other. Web shows happened. We decided to make Permanent Roommates. We all sat down. We were very clear that humor is also, again, Permanent Roommates, the one-liner of the show is nothing new, nothing unique. Like two people fall in love and they want to live together. Who will take a show like this? But when we got down to writing, each and every episode, how the characters are going to talk to each other, the humor aspect of it, the relationship, and it was all purely based on the experiences around us. We could see like a Tanya or a Mikesh around us. I had cool parents who allowed me to, go to this big city of dream, have a live-in relationship, and all of that. So we were just borrowing from our life experiences. And luckily so, there was a huge amount of audiences which related with that, and they were probably desiring for a content like that, and that's how it all clicked, yaar. And ये हम कुछ decade ago की बात कर रहे हैं, so that doesn't mean that I'm quite old, but Like, but I do want to tell you that Hardik is my oldest friend in Mumbai. Not age-wise. Like, yeah.
No, I think she got the loudest cheers, I think. And when she came over here, of course. You started off in the digital space. You've done movies as well. How do you look at the contrast, the sort of popularity that you've enjoyed because of your digital content compared to, say, the sort of movies that you've done? You've done Dream Girl, which is like a 100 crore film.
So yeah, my background is theatre. I have done a lot of theatre. I trained in theatre first in Delhi. I was working with IPTA for a very long time, Indian People's Theatres Association, when I was in Jamia, when I was studying in Jamia. And then the whole web thing sort of started with us, through us. And we were lucky enough, we were at the right place at the right time. YouTube was happening. And of course, movies has been around for forever. Like, I've grown up watching Hindi movies. सर ने एक था टाइगर बनाई है, मेरा इंस्टा हैंडल है एक थापा टाइगर. तो so like he very rightly said, like यार हम लोगों को तो काम करना है, हमें कहानियाँ बताने में मज़ा आता है, हमें कहानियाँ like I think I love the set energy. I think मैं field job के लिए बनी हूँ. I always feel that. I love the energies on set. It resonates with how our rehearsals used to be in theatre. It is very similar to the experience of making YouTube videos when just 4 of us, there were 2 actors, and when the 2 actors are acting, I am the spot girl who's holding the vada pav or also the makeup artist, and when it's my turn to act or say those lines, they'll come back and, they'll do the needful. So, I don't think मेरे लिए there's any category as such कि oh film मिल गई यार दुनिया बदल गई, oh OTT पे show आ गया जीवन बदल गया. It's mostly to do with I get to say what I want to say, I get to play the roles that I want to play, I get to make the stories that I want to make. And I think as long as we are able to reach to the majority of the audiences, and that's the goal, yaar. And very rightly he said, like, I could not watch 83 and I was like, जब हॉल्स में आई थिएटर में आई थी एंड मुझे कोविड हो गया एंड आई वाज लाइक अरे यार ये क्या हो गया. आई हैव बीन वेटिंग फॉर द एंड वी हैव ऑल ग्रोन अप ऑन क्रिकेट एंड एवरीथिंग ना, एंड द मिनट इट केम ऑन OTT मैंने तुरंत देखा यार. एंड देयर वाज नथिंग लॉस्ट इन ट्रांसलेशन. इट्स नॉट लाइक कि वो थिएटर में मैं बहुत रोई यार टुवर्ड्स द एंड ऑफ द मूवी. सर आई टॉक टू यू सेपरेटली अबाउट द the experiences that I've had while watching the movie, and I think हाँ यार मेरे लिए तो similar experience है. I won't say much. आप लोग.
All right. So Suresh, I was watching a TEDx speech of yours, and you started it with the entire. I think when Tumhari Sulu ended, and the entire rap thing that you had, and your entire team, the way you spoke about them, the way you boosted their spirits, and Vidya was in tears. And you mentioned during your TED talk that for you've been an extremely successful ad filmmaker. For you to just progress to making movies was a continuation of what dreams are all about, And whenever, with my experience from whatever I've covered, I think whenever that intention is there, then the filmmaker is not making projects. He's trying to say the story that he wants to say in as much uncompromising manner as possible. How important is that dream for you that was just sown in your mind in Tumhari Sulu till Jalsa and from here on?
After Tumhari Sulu, you get very aware because suddenly all the attention came onto you, and people were talking about how nuanced and all of that, and you tend to hear only positive things. So you tend to get aware, and then you write some very pretentious stuff as disconnected. So there was a lot of pressure that when are you making your next? But then I had decided one thing, I arrived at one thing. I will not make a film just because I'm supposed to. I'll make a film if I want to. Because that is the power which I have because of advertising and what I do. I should have a story to tell which I should be excited. Otherwise, action cut करने के लिए advertising है. And I can do that. So, also I think it's a huge ask when you're asking anyone to give me 2 hours of your life come, watch the film. If in a cinema you are actually asking 5 hours of their life, before and after, I think you should be responsible for their time. You will not be, not everyone is going to like it, but the idea that at least you put an effort. So I'm very clear that as much as possible, if I can tell stories that makes a difference to me, I'll do that. Otherwise, I'm not interested in it. Because it's a lot of hard work and I'm too lazy.
Okay, so Tumhare Sulu released in theaters, did very well. Jalsa released on Amazon Prime, got very good reviews and it did exceedingly well as well. You've I think traversed in both the boats somehow. So how is your experience of both the worlds and how do you look at this contrast?
So it's been, in fact, so Tumhari is what happens, I've realized in a theater, is the spike is like this. So I remember when Tumhari Salu opened, it opened not at a great number. And over the weekend, it kind of spiked. And then it kind of plateaued in midweek. So all the attention came in that week. And then within a week or 2 weeks' time, Padmavat came in and conversation changed. Yes, it's a great high going to a theater with your family, watching the film and seeing the reaction. Phenomenal. It's phenomenal. So what I thought was, as a filmmaker, I think this is the correct cusp. I call this phase as a cusp because there's a transition that's happening where everything will coexist. I thought that let me experience what this beast is. And hence, it was a very conscious call of taking Jalsa to OTT. My producer the other day, who's been extremely supportive, Vikram Malhotra, he was telling me, he was asking me, how do you feel? I said that now it's settling down. It's more than 3.5 weeks. You won't believe, even till afternoon. There's a message, there's a call, there's a pattern. And it is overwhelming. It's absolutely, there's no point comparing because the best part is, I think over here, the sustenance for a film like this is longer and very personal. I've got essays, man. And that's overwhelming. So I think it's exciting. It's great for us as storytellers that we have various screen sizes and we can deliver with the same camera.
Great. So, Kabir, there is this, I think, very crucial discussion that is taking place within the film industry right now. That how will the entertainment world go from here on as far as movies are concerned? Because we've just had a phenomenal success of RRR. We are seeing extraordinary advance booking for KGF 2 right now. At the same time, Dasvi is trending not only in India but various parts of the world as far as OTT is concerned. We've had Minnal Murali in the past that has trended in many countries. So what is your assessment with your experience? How is it going to be like from here on with movies as well as digital space?
I think there's going to be a coexistence. Like Suresh said, absolutely there's going to be a coexistence because if you see world over, this discussion that theatrical is over, we've gone through this discussion many times. Every 10 years this discussion comes up. But there is something about community viewing of a film that will never ever go out because there's something ingrained in the way we are as human beings that can never take us away from a community viewing. And I often cite the example of Korea, for example. Korea has the most powerful OTT platforms. In fact, they're now popular all over the world. The best shows. They have the best penetration of broadband internet speeds. You can sit and watch broadband on the street in Korea. But with all this, they have one more fact. Highest per capita theatre going audience in the world. And that just shows that, yes, see, it's great that we can access, as everybody in the panel said, films immediately. The moment we want to watch it, we don't need to go buy a ticket, we don't need to plan it, we just switch it on and the film is available to us. That's fabulous. But at the same time, the thrill of watching a film, especially a spectacle film in a theatre, will always be very, very thrilling for us. So it'll always coexist. Yes, what will happen is that maybe you will need to make spectacle films to draw people into the audiences, and films that are more sort of, drama-oriented, human relationship-oriented can be accessed by the audiences on OTT platforms. But so I never really look at it as a debate of OTT versus theaters. I think that debate itself is irrelevant and it's erroneous. It's always going to be a coexistence of these two spaces, and it's great for storytellers because the entry barriers are lower. More and more filmmakers are incoming. OTT is more supportive of storytelling without big stars, right? So it brings in many more storytellers. It brings in many more exciting voices to the entertainment industry. What else can you ask for?
Okay, so coexistence, something which is I think definitely has always been there, will be there. But what used to happen was that there was this entire sort of mindset that if a film is releasing directly, say on OTT तो अभी आया है, on say satellite for example directly, then maybe film में कुछ कमी होगी, इस वजह से direct to satellite release कर रहे हैं. All right, but now with this entire 2-year period that we've had, so in a way people have understood, like a Kaamyaab for example, if it would have released say on an OTT directly with a fanfare and everything, it would have been fantastic for it in more ways than one. So do you feel that there will be these spectacle films for cinema halls, and there will be certain content-oriented films backed with, say, good actors like Jaideep Ahlawat is there in Patal Lok, for example, or I think Sanjay Mishra was outstanding in Kaamyaab. So that content can simultaneously release on OTT. So that sort of thing will be a bit of a shift from the earlier mindset.
Faridoon, we speak about theatrical and OTT with a perspective that we assume that they are equal spaces. We also have to consider in our country what the theatrical space is. Okay, a big blockbuster, like my most viewed film in the theatrical space has been Bajrangi Bhaijaan. Okay, but it's only been watched by 3% of the population. That's our penetration. So we are primed and waiting for other platforms to come in and deliver our films to the audiences. How can we make these films and be content with 3% of the population watching it in the theaters? So I'm talking about, as you know, a blockbuster film is a film that's watched by more than 3 crore or 3.5 crore audiences, footfalls in the thing. What is that in percentage to our population? Nothing. Right. So therefore, we need OTTs. We need many more platforms for our films to go out and reach the audiences and not have that pressure of a small film that comes before the small film can even gain its own momentum and word of mouth. There's a giant blockbuster that comes and just swamps it and removes it from the theaters because there's such limited theaters that every big filmmaker that comes in wants 4,000 plus screens and an entire pie is 5,000 screens. So how can a small film coexist? And therefore, OTTs will nurture those small films. And those films will have a longer life. They don't have that pressure of delivering in the first 3 weeks or the first Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You can view them much later. You can view them 4 months after release. It's there for posterity. So therefore, as I said, I never look at this argument as OTT versus theatrical. I think it's an erroneous argument. It's always going to be OTTs supporting theatrical. Every film ultimately will still be watched on your OTTs even after they're theatrical. Theatrical for a very, very successful film will be 8 weeks, 10 weeks. That's it, right? After that, it's going to be on the OTTs for years.
So, Hardik, what are your views?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with Kabir sir because what he mentioned is something that I have experienced. That when Kaamyaab was coming to cinema halls, it was presented by Shah Rukh Khan, yet it was clashing with Baghi 3, and we had somebody called me from Jaipur, that के यार तुम्हारी फिल्म लगी है यहाँ पे पर एक सुबह 9:30 का शो है और एक रात को 11:15 का शो है तो वो मतलब इट्स लाइक अब कैसे जाएं वो क्योंकि मतलब आई मीन इन नॉर्थ पीपल डोंट गो टू मूवीज आफ्टर 9 o'clock नो सो अभी वो 11:15 को चल रहा है शो सो वी ऑलमोस्ट फेल्ट लाइक इतनी मेहनत करके 1.5 साल फिल्म बना के वेट करके फेस्टिवल जाके जब फाइनली व्हेन वी आर कमिंग टू थिएटर्स वी हैव टू अंडरगो समथिंग लाइक दिस वेयर इन एंड जयपुर इज like the biggest city in Rajasthan, and imagine it wouldn't have gone to a Jodhpur or a Udaipur also, matlab. So how do we even reach to audience? I mean, how does a small film actually reach to an audience? Which is when I was almost lucky and privileged in a way that first wave came, सबको घर बिठाया और जब सब घर बैठे थे तब हम फिल्म रिलीज की ताकि सब लोगों ने हमारी फिल्म देखी, which I mean I couldn't have asked for anything. a better occasion for my small film to have. I mean, even then it required Shah Rukh Khan to present it. You know, imagine that. I mean, otherwise if we were not coming through a superstars production house, we would probably have, मतलब, you know, हम कहीं गायब हो जाते. In fact, a film like Masan, which is probably one of the best films made in India in last decade, came right between Bajrangi Bhaijaan and Bahubali. And imagine the pressure that small film had when it had been a winner in Cannes and all, you know. So, I mean, thanks to OTT today, that people who missed then, because of course they were saving their money for Bajrangi Bhaijaan and Bahubali, can now actually watch and feel that, okay, why was this film such a classic, and why do critics and the review writers speak so highly about this film, you know. So I think in that way, वो जो theatrical का pressure है, वो निकल के अब now we don't have thankfully that pressure. और मतलब वो एक जो theatrical pressure में होता है ना कि छोटी फिल्म में भी कॉमेडी करने के लिए आपको वो बैकग्राउंड म्यूजिक डालते रहो, मतलब यू नो पंच के लिए एक वापस बीजीएम डाल दो ताकि ऑडियंस को पता चले यहाँ हंसना है. नहीं, हमारी ऑडियंस इंटेलिजेंट इनफ है टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट हियर is a gentle comedy. It doesn't need the treatment of every Bollywood comedy, you know. So I think that is a relief to a lot of filmmakers like us, that we don't have to. And tomorrow if we actually come up with a scale, and if we come up with an idea, and there are producers who will back us and say that, oh yes, here is an idea, जो actually, मतलब, you know, you can go completely, say a VFX-ish example. रूही was an idea which actually could be enjoyed in theaters much more. अब मैं वो फिल्म जब Netflix पे देखता हूँ तो मुझे मज़ा नहीं आता, क्योंकि वो हॉरर कॉमेडी है, उसका इम्पैक्ट उसके वो साउंड डिज़ाइन, उसके BGM, उसका वो एटमॉस्फेयर क्रिएट करने में है. तो अब अगर आप दिन दहाड़े, मतलब जब वो फिल्म देख रहे हो जिसमें आपको वो शक्ल भूत जैसी दिख भी नहीं रही है, तो आपको लग रहा है इसमें क्या है, वो इनएडवर्टेंटली कॉमेडी लगने लगती है, जबकि इट इज़ नॉट मेंट टू बी दैट, यू नो. सो आई थिंक there is that both experience that I have had with a film like Kaamyaab and a film like Ruhi.
Okay, so I have a hypothetical situation for you. If Kaamyaab would have released today, backed with the sort of publicity that was spent on, say, Decoupled, for example, don't you think it would have got a far bigger audience than what it has now?
I mean, yeah, I agree that it would have got a much bigger response today, but in a way, as I told you, that it came right between lockdown when everybody was at home. So शायद अभी वो रिस्पॉन्स इतना नहीं मिलता, क्योंकि अभी एवरी फ्राइडे 4 चीज़ें 4 प्लेटफॉर्म पे रिलीज हो रही है. तब हम सिर्फ लॉकडाउन में आए थे और नेटफ्लिक्स ही मेजर प्लेटफॉर्म था, एंड ऑफ कोर्स अमेजॉन प्राइम, हु आर रिलीजिंग फिल्म्स ऑन देयर OTT. सो आई थिंक जो हुआ वो अच्छे के लिए हुआ, और उसको रिपीट नहीं कर सकते हम. सो इन अ वे आई मीन आई एम हैप्पी दैट इट turned out like that, rather than having today a film where it comes again with 6 other releases on 6 different platforms, plus it has to compete with theatrical also.
All right, so Suresh, you said that Padmavat released, and Tumhari Sulu, the sort of jump that it had, it just plateaued down after a point of time. With Jalsa, your experience was different?
So yeah, I mean, Jalsa has, because see, there are two things. One is, as a filmmaker, you can hide behind the fact that, hey, I don't need to prove any numbers, which is the easiest thing to hide behind. So I'm not even on social media, okay? So whatever feedbacks that are coming, what I'm amazed is the reach of this medium. My film is on Amazon Prime, okay? The amount of feedback that comes from, I'm not talking about the fraternity or anything like that, just from people, it's crazy. So am I getting the same feeling as a filmmaker in terms of response? Yes. It is very interesting. In fact, just while we were talking about it, before coming, I was trying to cull out some data. So there's an Ernst & Young data with FICCI. So what Sir was saying, which is, I think versus is not the deal, OTT versus. I think it's great for everyone. I think one of the best things that's happened is employment. Like, I was just trying to cull out some data. If 2019, it was a 1.8 trillion industry, rupee, India. Just the media and entertainment. This involves events also. It reached 1.6 trillion it came down to 1.6 trillion in 2021. It's going to go 2.4 trillion by year 24. What is interesting over here is, digital has taken a huge lead. Digital, which was an industry of 221 billion in 2019, has gone up to 303 billion in 21. It's expected to reach 587 billion, which is half of Indian television. So the biggest revenue generator actually has been television. In fact, film I was trying to find out, films in 2019 was a 191 billion industry. It's all our estimates. Reached 93 billion, of course, because of the theaters were not open and all of that, came to 21. It's estimated to reach 212 billion in 24. Now, all of this put together, what it says is the industry is supposed to reach overall 2.4 trillion rupee by 24, which is phenomenal. So I'm saying that these are industries which are coexisting. So while the pandemic was happening, two industries took a big beating. Events took a very big beating, which is a huge part of our income thingy. But what I realized is this penetration, increasing penetration, is amazing that even right now when the clutter is there of a lot of films, Jalsa is still getting traction, which is very good for a filmmaker. So I said, for me, it was a greed that I did a theatrical, I experienced that. Now I touch this one, this beast. It's interesting. It's interesting. You're getting your feedback, which is, and we also crafted the film for it. I should be very honest about it.
Right, and Shah Rukh Khan is promoting 83. So Kabir Khan has no complaints. With that advertisement of Hotstar, Shah Rukh Khan is promoting 83. Okay, so Nidhi, and I think all of you guys, I would just like to have your views on the changing face of writing in the entertainment space now. We will start with Nidhi. If you can start with considering the sort of writing that you brought to the table with your sketches and your content. If you can please share your thoughts.
Like you rightly said earlier that पहले बोलते थे फिल्म में फिल्म वो लोग बनाते हैं जिनको और कुछ काम करने को नहीं मिलता ना, जैसे स्कूल में होता था कि साइंस अगर मार्क्स है एक पर्टिकुलर तो साइंस लिया, फिर कॉमर्स, और किसी का कुछ नहीं हुआ तो उसको आर्ट्स में भेज दिया, राइट. सो तो वही उसी का एक्सटेंशन मूवीज़ के लिए बोला जाता था. बट नाउ दैट although I don't completely agree to it, because I think earlier Salim Javed se leke matlab we had a history of great epic writing, ऐसा नहीं है. But हाँ, how like when I was working with Garliapa, which was a all women channel, and we were all women creators there, and the only few rules that we had in the writers' room were that it has to be, we just have to make funny content, and whatever is funny for everybody in the room, we'll just make that. And it is for women, by women, and about women. So how the writing has changed over the years, of course, like the show that I have been working on in the last 2 years, which will come out now sometime hopefully. We've been working on that all through the over Zoom calls, and बहुत boring काम है यार writing. Let me just say it out loud. You have to just stare at your blank screen for so many hours, and yeah, there are ऐसे नॉन जॉयफुल डेज भी होते हैं, बट ऐसा लगता है कि मतलब मैं तो अभी तो मैं उस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम पे हूँ, बिकॉज आई एम ऑल्सो इन द प्रोसेस ऑफ editing the show and it is going to come out and all of that, that it takes at least 1.5-2 years to develop something, you know, to if you really like passionately want to make it. Of course छपाई में भी काम करते हैं लोग, दो फैक्ट्री मोड होता है, but that's not my training. My schooling has been different. Also, like I said that because my theatre background is also there, so whenever we are writing, we also think as characters. We do improvise between the writers, so it is important that there's not just one brain who's responsible for everything. You know, it's a mammoth task yeah, to write those what 1 घंटे की फिल्म हम बनाते हैं अगर 1 hour 15 minutes, so it's oddly like 120-130 pages, and it is not easy for one single person to, you know, pen down with those character arcs and everything. So how we write, how I write with my writers, we pick up characters and it is, yeah, we think of the characters as humans rather than treating them as prop कि ये आया, ये यहाँ पे बस ग्लास रखेगा और फिर ये चला जाएगा, ये एक जोक मारेगा फिर ये चला जाएगा, and he has no contribution in the story whatsoever. So ऐसी छोटी छोटी चीज़ें, of course there is a lot of reading that has happened about writing. There's a structure, like, यू नो बेसिक्स बिगनिंग मिडिल एंड और वो सारी चीज़ें तो हैं ही, और एक्ट 1 एक्ट 2 एक्ट 3 लाइक सम ऑफ द मतलब मेरा कोई फिल्मी एजुकेशन नहीं है एज सच, बट सब कुछ सेल्फ लर्निंग है. सो विच इज़ वाई काफ़ी सारे एडहॉक मेथड्स है दैट आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट. एंड व्हाट एल्स, I think you guys should take.
In fact, right now it's actually the best time for writers, because now we are seeing book adaptation so much more than previously we were seeing it. I mean, we are inviting people from different fields to come into films and cinema. You know, which was earlier, it was, you felt like कि अच्छा सिनेमा तो मतलब ये 15 लोग बॉम्बे में मिलके ही बनाते थे और ये 10 लोग चेन्नई में बनाते थे. अब वो नहीं है. Now, I mean, if I have collaborated on Decoupled with somebody like Manu Joseph, who is such a, I mean, you know, I mean, in a interesting way, he has a very distinct voice also, and he has such a controversial voice also. You know, so I think वो जो पहले ये पॉसिबल नहीं था कि एक जर्नलिस्ट आके एक सीरीज़ लिखें और यू नो वी काइंड ऑफ मेक और somebody or we start thinking of a film with Sanjay Mishra just as the lead. क्योंकि जब मैं फिल्म बना रहा था और कोई मुझे पूछ रहा था कि आपकी फिल्म में लीड कौन है, तो मैं कहता था संजय मिश्रा. तो बोले अच्छा लेकिन और कौन है, मतलब नहीं वही लीड है. यू नो, तो दैट दे डिडंट काइंड ऑफ गेट इट. सिमिलरली व्हेन हम जब पाताल लोग लिख रहे थे तो इट वाज अ क्राइम ड्रामा व्हेन वी स्टार्टेड राइटिंग इन 2016. और 16 में जब अमेजॉन प्राइम आया था और सबसे पहली जो 10 सीरीज़ उन्होंने सैंक्शन की थी, तब हमने काम शुरू किया था उस पर लिखना. लेकिन बाय द टाइम वो आया 2020 हो गए थे, तो अब क्राइम ड्रामास बन गए थे. बट जब हमने शुरू किया था तो इट वाज लाइक अ बुक अडेप्टेशन विच वाज अ पुलिस इन्वेस्टिगेटिव नोआर दैट वी वर ट्राइंग टू build, and we never thought that it will become like a toast of the town or one of the best series of that 2020. So in that way, writing is going through so many changes. We are now started blending genres. Horror comedy is a result of that. मतलब horror comedy पहले भी था, वैसे तो भूत बंगला भी बना है, but we are now constantly reinventing ourselves. We are not only looking at कि भाई ये स्टार है, you know, the star will do his 5 things and that is how the film will end, और 4 गाने हम ऐड कर देंगे, because that no longer is the formula. You have to constantly surprise the audience. You have to constantly, I mean, even a film like a filmmaker like Rajamouli sir, if you watch RRR, you see that every 15 minutes there is a big setup, a big you know, kind of a sequence that arrives, and yet it surprises you. So I think when you are entering theater with a 400 rupee ticket, 400 रुपये का तो कोला मिलता है आजकल अंदर, मतलब you know, तो you have to have, as a filmmaker you have a pressure of delivering surprises and at the same time engaging your audience, so that after that 2.5-3 hours they feel like it was worth coming out of our homes, sitting here, buying that 400 rupee popcorn and eventually becoming a 2000 rupees affair for just 2 people to go watch a movie, you know. So I think writing is even going through a very, very, I mean, our generation honestly has seen so many changes from, हम जब आए थे तब फिल्म पे शूट हो रही थी, फिर डिजिटल पे चीज़ें हो गई. जब हम आए तो मतलब पहले हम फिल्म के लिए ट्रेन हो रहे थे असिस्टेंट डायरेक्टर, और फिर बीच में सीरीज़ आने लगी, तो अब हम फिल्म भी में एक पैर है, सीरीज़ में भी एक पैर है, एंड नाउ देयर इज दिस OTT वर्सेस theatrical. So I think our generation probably has seen the most amount of changes, and we are kind of challenged every 3rd month that कि अब ये आने वाला है, अब इसके लिए क्या प्रिपरेशन करोगे.
All right, that's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, and that's great. So, you know, I think there must be many aspiring writers over here right now. So, you have Kabir Khan, and who understands writing, and he has a very unique voice. Kabir, आपके लिए जो आप कहना चाहते हैं, उसमें राइटिंग की अगर जैसे हम बात करें, उसमें इंटेंशन कितना इम्पोर्टेंट है, नियत कितनी इम्पोर्टेंट है?
नियत ही सब कुछ है. See, I come from a background of documentaries. I did documentaries for several years before I made the shift with my first film, Kabul Express, which was also essentially based on my own experiences as a documentary filmmaker in Afghanistan. And I always used to struggle with, as an audience when I was watching films, I used to struggle with the sort of lack of social and political context in a film. I used to enjoy them, but sometimes I used to struggle, why is there no context to the characters? And therefore, you know, one of my favorite filmmakers at that point in time when I was a film student was Mani Ratnam, because Mani Ratnam would always have a very larger than life sort of a social political backdrop to his films. So for me, the politics of a film is very important. And I've often, and I'm bringing this up because I've often heard, and I get very worried when I hear this, people in the industry say, we're not interested in politics, or we are apolitical. It doesn't matter to us. But the point is, as human beings, you cannot be apolitical. These bottles can be apolitical. We cannot be apolitical. The way we frame a character is telling our politics. The words, the lines that our characters are speaking is telling our politics. You are revealing something about your ideology with every word and every shot in your film. So don't assume that you're apolitical. You're very political, and sometimes saying apolitical only reeks of your privilege. Because what's happening in the country doesn't affect you, right? We all, with money in India, can live in a bubble. But the fact of the matter is that for the common man, everything in India affects his or her daily life. So therefore, when I say that politics of a film is very important, brings you down to niyat kya hai, aap batana kya cha rahe ho ultimately. And I'm not saying make the film about your politics. Don't. You can't be preaching. The politics have to come in the layers beneath. And that's what I have struggled with, and sometimes I've done it successfully, sometimes maybe not so successfully in my mainstream cinema. A classic example of it is the song, there's a chicken song in Bajrangi Bhaijaan. Now the chicken song at face value is actually the most popular song of the kids because of the way Salman and Kareena are dancing and all that. It's also the most political song of the film because it came in the face of the beef ban. And the song is basically saying, this is Chaudhary Dhaba, which is a metaphor for India. Aadha hai non-veg, aadha hai veg. You decide what you want to eat, and all of us can sit together and eat. So that's the way you have to slip in the politics. You cannot make your film about the politics, but for the part of the audience that can access the layers beneath, the film becomes that much more profound, that much more enjoyable. So the niyat is very, very important.
All right, so you made these amazing documentaries. You just made 83, which is the docudrama. How important is it for you when you are telling a story, which is having a real backdrop to it, to be true to it, to just keep your facts correct, to get the perspective of what you're trying to say correct? How important is it for you when you are conceiving and making it?
So it all depends on what I'm trying to do. So if I'm making a film like 83, which is the recreation of an iconic moment in our history, then I have to be extremely careful about being true to every little detail, because these are details that people can check. These are details that people know. Anybody above 45 in this country has got that iconic moment embedded in their hearts and their mind. So I don't want to disappoint people by saying, oh, this was not exactly the way it happened, or Kapil Dev didn't really go like this, or Madanlal's action is off. So for that, I wanted it to be very, very authentic. But when it's not a recreation of an iconic event, like for example, my film Kabul Express, right, which is based on reality, and it's based on what was happening in Afghanistan at that point in time, then I'm not so bothered about the minute recreation of true events. For me, it's just taking the soul of the story, being, of course, backed by a lot of research. You should always back your work with a lot of research, because even when you want to take a creative liberty, it needs to come from the position of strength of knowing where you're taking the departure from. You cannot say, I don't care what happened and mine is a creative liberty, but creative liberty from what? You don't even know where you're leaping from. So therefore, a lot of research is something which I've always enjoyed, and me and my writing team is something that we always spend a lot of time in doing. Because once you know the facts, then you can play around, and the false notes don't come. So I think it's very important if you're setting sort of realistic backdrops to have that research in place, know your facts, and know when you're distorting them, because there are times when you will distort them for the sake of narrative drama.
Absolutely. Okay, and a lot of you people, you may think that writing is all about the dialogues, but there is much more to writing, I believe. And Suresh, what is the importance of screenplay?
The screenplay purely, I remember that I used to be very embarrassed because my English was not that great. I used to wonder that every time I used to write a script, is it sounding great? Is it sounding like those classic screenplays? And then a very senior filmmaker, Gautam Menon from Chennai, and he was chatting with him and he said that screenplay, your job
is actually a progression of a movie, and it's purely a craft. It should not be confused with the literature. So I guess screenplay relevance is that's where the film is made or dead.
All right, so I think we
Screenplay
can.
is this happens, therefore this happens. Every scene को आप इस तरह से देखते जाना, और if that is happening, then you have a screenplay. Otherwise, you have something else.
क्या बात है?
So there's one line which always stays with me about screenplay, and I agree with you. I feel screenplay is probably the most important thing in a film, is the backbone. And you say you can make a bad film out of a good screenplay, but you can never make a good film out of a bad screenplay.
Wow, that's amazing. So on that note, we'll have to end this discussion. I think we can have this discussion for many more hours, I believe. But thank you very much, Kabir and Hardik, for the thank you for